that just make you uncomfortable? Because reading Toni Morrison's book made us uncomfortable by crossing the line in many ways, but she did it in such an artful and masterful way that we appreciated the African American culture. Let's sit down in a mother's book club and see what they have to say about the books.
What do you think about your book?
Oh, it was a masterwork. It was wonderful. I can't imagine American literature without it.
Margaret, you dirty little liar. That's exactly what it says in the back of the book.
My God, Margaret, did you even read this book?
Did you even read your book?
Of course I read my book. It was beautiful and awesome. It was rich and moving and...
That's exactly what it said in the back of your book.
Disgusted at both of them.
Clarence, what was your book about?
Yeah.
Well, I prepared an essay on behalf of the group. The Bluest Eyes is a 1970 novel by an American author, Toni Morrison. It is Morrison's first novel written while Morrison was teaching at Howard University and raising her two sons. Lorain, Ohio was a place where Toni Morrison grew up as a child, and it really developed her writing throughout her life, and it was just beautiful. And based on this Wikipedia edit,
Clarence! How dare you! Have you ladies read this book? I didn't think so.
God forgive my sins. I think when I was trying to pick up the book, my daughter was always reading it.
Man too?
I think my daughter read it.
Let's go check on the kids. Considering none of us actually read it, we're gonna go check in with the kids and see what they have to say.
It's our turn for book club now.
I don't even know why my mom comes to these book clubs. She never even reads the books.
I know why mine comes. She just wants for the wine and socializing.
I mean, this book was so good, these books. I mean, the culture was just so enriching, and they just don't appreciate anything. Like, come on, Mom.
Did they actually read the book?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I read Song of Solomon, and it was about this guy, this African-American named Milkman. And he was named Milkman for a kind of disturbing reason because his mother breastfed him till he was 8, and it was kind of weird at first, and I was a little weirded out. But I got into the book, and just Milkman's history and the discrimination against the African Americans was really brought to light, and it was so deep, and I felt like I was in the story with him, and I just really appreciated my book.
It was the exact same deal with my book. I read Beloved, and it told the story of Seth, an ex-slave who had to deal with multiple tragedies of slavery, and like she was forced to kill her own daughter because she didn't want her kids to have to go through the tragedies that she was forced to deal with. So I mean I never learned about graphic details like that of slavery before.
Well, OMG and LOL. My story was basically the same. In fact, one mother in my story even killed her own son because he was addicted to opium. Disturbing, but very enriching in that I learned a lot of details about the character and really felt their pain.
It sounds like we all kind of had a tough time reading our books.
Yeah, I mean at one point in the story, the mom, her dad died, and her husband walked in on her doing sexual things with her dad's body, and at first that would seem really gross, but it really contributed to the theme of the story, and that's why Toni Morrison is so successful.
Kind of made me uncomfortable too. At the beginning, there was examples of men having sex with animals, and I'd never really read anything like that.
In my story, there's a mom that doused her child with gasoline and lit him on fire.
I was on my computer listening to Friday Again. I mean, how many times can you listen to that song in a row?
Really?
So I had to stop. I know. I had to stop at one point after listening to Fun, 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 Fun. And I just looked up her Nobel Prize speech. Have you guys read it?
Yeah. It talked a lot about how one of her main strengths was characterization, and I totally agreed because while I was reading the book, I couldn't help but empathize with the characters throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, even the fact that she's being compared to Faulkner and Steinbeck is like wicked awesome. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm gonna tweet about it.
Oh my gosh, tweeting is perfect. It spreads the word. And did you guys know that she's won over 15 awards for her novels? That's amazing.
I know.
I really understand why Toni Morrison is such a good author in the society. She's not afraid to take risks like other authors. All the other books I've read, it discusses the issues, but it doesn't really go in depth and cross the line. Crossing the line is really effective in her case.
Also talked about how she succeeded in chronicling African American culture and history that's never been told before. Did you guys notice that in your book?
In my book, the author chronicles the life of Sula and Nell. Nell decides to live like everyone else and just stay in the community of Belmont and just stay with everyone. And Sula decides to go off to college and live a life of luxury in New York. But eventually she comes back and she's labeled as a temptress and someone who's not welcome in the town because of her luxury ways and other stuff.
That's deep. I mean, I really want to read that book. I read Song of Solomon, but I also read The Bluest Eyes. And the main girl, Pecola, she's striving to have blue eyes, like white people, even though she's African American and she's beautiful as she is. But the outside pressures of society and the abuse from the outside people and the racism cause her to want to be someone that she's not. And that's really sad, and I really felt for her and felt Morrison's characterization. And also, it also illustrated the abuse within African American families.
My book illustrated many of the horrors of slavery, and we've always learned about slavery in school, but it's never gone into detail. And Morrison's books really gave examples of how tragic their lives were and what they had to deal with.
So if you could pick one sentence or one phrase and like what you've learned from this experience, what would it be?
By crossing boundaries and making her readers slightly uncomfortable at times.
Toni Morrison is able to capture the reader's attention and personify the African American history.
In a way that no author has done before.
Boom. Roasted.
Seen in the kids' discussion, Toni Morrison took some pretty challenging risks in her writing. She was a trailblazer for literary merit of her time and really set the bar for other writers. Wasn't afraid to take risks like other authors, and that's what made her successful in the end.